at Tiverton, 14 k's east of Holbrook in the Wollongong Valley. It's basically a cattle property, and we're running Hereford cattle. It's a Hereford breeding operation.
The whole theory behind holistic management was trying to mimic nature. So Alan Savory, who was the founder of the movement, watched animals in their native habitat, and there would be huge herds coming to an area, grazing, and they would leave and they wouldn't revisit that area until it was fully recovered. And that's basically what we try and base our system on.
And so we're really trying to concentrate on what's actually happening at the soil level and keep that well protected. We regard bare ground as a wound, and we want to keep a skin of plants or plant material on that soil the whole time. Basically we're moving these cattle, well on average they'll be moved every day, and then that pasture has a long rest period. Some of our rest periods are out to 180, or even we've actually had summer rest periods of 200 days. The other proviso we try is not to let the animals take a second bite of a growing plant. If we move them frequently, they stay on a constant plane of nutrition.
Because we don't have any inputs, we don't fertilise, we don't use chemicals, we don't vaccinate, we don't drench. We don't actually own any machinery. We have 2 motorbikes and a ute, so our cost of production is extremely low, and it's this system that's enabled that, because animal health's not an issue, the land health is not an issue.
Our production's not going to be as high as someone who's using a lot of fertiliser or a lot of crops like that, but we believe that the ultimate bottom line is better. So we aren't spending money on chemicals, but we're continually putting money into what we call wealth building expenses, like dams, water, fences.
The advantages, as I see them, are that they're running a system that fits into the local environment. It's increasing biodiversity on farm, it's increasing their soil health by improving their soil structure and increasing their water infiltration and water holding potential of their soil. It's also changing the species of vegetation that they have on farm. So they're moving from a system where there was, in a lot of places, a high annual content, so a lot of broadleaf weed species and low sort of successional plants, and they're moving up through into a lot of native perennial pastures, which are obviously much better at retaining water and reducing sediment movement off the property. At the same time, the cattle do really well on them. They really flourish on that sort of perennial pasture system.
There's just been incredible improvements. I mean, there's country that we started with that was just flatweed and capeweed and silvergrass, and it's now amazing perennial grasses that respond every time we get a rainfall.
We don't manage to control weeds, they'll just drop out of the system. Initially they probably do a good job. Where there's bare ground, you'll have Patterson's curse, and it does a great job at putting a skin over the soil, and that's what we want. And then you secede out of that eventually. We've got much more resilience in our land now, and I don't think a drought frightens us that much at all.
Because we would know now that we've got 6 months feed ahead of us, and we can structure that accordingly. So if it didn't rain for the next 6 months, we'd be fine.
Because the more paddocks you've got, the more resilient your system's going to be.
I think the integrity of food is going to become a really important issue. It's not only an animal health issue, it's a human health issue. Like, our cattle are grazing on natural grass products and not fed anything synthetic or artificial, and that's staying within the food chain. The cattle are healthy, they're quiet because they're moved every day, they're used to human contact. Every person that's bought them is buying again the following year because they've been really happy with how they've performed. There's nothing on this place that we don't feel comfortable having the children around with us. We've got 5 kids, and there's no machinery, no chemicals, nothing that endangers them. So the kids are really involved in what we do. They're actually part of the decision-making process, which is part of holistic management too.
Holistic management has really made our life more meaningful,
It's a pleasure to come and have a look around their property and see what they're doing and follow their journey in this sort of management style, and just to see where they've come from and where they're going. Yeah, it's really, really beautiful.
I just love being on this land because you can feel the energy here. There's just, I mean, you can hear the birds and the frogs, and it just feels alive.